I really take objection to being called a liar, which has happened several times. It is, I really, Madam Chair, this is not the first time that I have been called a liar.
Oh my goodness, shut your mouth.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Today we head over to the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage, where the Chief Executive Officer of the CBC, Catherine Tate, is called again to speak. In their last duel, Rachel Thomas wanted to know if the CBC chief was planning on giving herself and the other executives bonuses after firing hundreds of people. Rachel is very glad Catherine came back to committee because she wants answers and she wants them now.
Let's take a look.
Ms. Tate, in December on the 4th, you announced that 800 jobs would be cut from the CBC. 600 individuals would be fired and 200 vacancies would not be filled, totaling 800. At that time, you were asked whether or not executives would be given bonuses for 2023. You said you weren't ruling it out. When you came to this committee, you confirmed once again that you were not ruling it out. In fact, you confirmed that a decision would be made by the end of March. Now it's May, and so I'm curious, are you going to be awarded a bonus for 2023?
This is a very good question, and one that deserves answering because of the fact that the CBC, I remind everybody, is 69.999% funded by Canadian taxpayers. And again, reminding everybody, back in December, it was reported by the CBC that they're cutting 10% of their workforce and ending programming as it faces a $125 million shortfall. This is after receiving $1.8 billion in federal money. Now, also recall that in the previous testimony, Ms. Tate had said, well, you know, it's based on the targets and we're not at the end of the year, so we don't know if we've, met our targets yet. Well, those targets are finalized at the end of March, and it is May. April has gone by. You should know if you've met your targets or not. What's the answer?
As I said at the time, Madam Chair, as I said at the time, we have a process which is very rigorous. After internal deliberations with the Board of Directors at our June board meeting, once we've had a chance to present the audited financial statements, there will be a discussion and we will inform employees at that time of the decision that is taken.
Ms. Tate, an access to information was put forward by the Taxpayers Federation and asking for those 2023 bonus amounts. The CBC responded by saying that they would provide those, but not until May 10th. Today is May 7th, and so I'm curious if 3 days prior you would be able to give those numbers here. I'm sure you have them. You just have not agreed to release the documents yet. However, I did write you a letter. I gave you a heads up, so I'm curious if you'd share them here.
And I thank you. I thank the honourable member from Lethbridge for the opportunity to clarify a lot of misinformation that has been circulating regarding performance pay in 22-23.
Even the CEO loves to add the spin.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's why CBC is the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why their viewership has been tanking. And here's the thing, right? So the question is for the 23-24 fiscal year, because again, the CBC's fiscal year matches up with the government's, which runs from April 1st to March 31st. So, they can't keep it simple. They can't go by the calendar year, so they have to say 23-24. So that's what Rachel Thomas is asking for. But Tate is like, well, I don't want to answer that question.
Of course not.
I want to make up a new question, and it's around misinformation out there of the fiscal 22-23 year. That's what I want to talk about, and I brought a whole bunch of paper to allow me to talk about that.
Well, and I just love how anything that the Liberals, the CBC, mainstream media, etc., that they don't want to admit to, or they don't want the truth getting out, it's misinformation.
And you know darn well that any competent executive with any integrity at all, they would be saying right from the start, they'd be saying, we're laying off 800 people. Of course we're not taking bonuses. That's ridiculous.
Oh, but I mean, if you were getting $1.8 billion in government spending, I mean, you probably wouldn't think twice if you were the CEO of the CBC.
I would, because I actually have some integrity. I've been in situations where employees were laid off and we didn't take bonuses, we didn't take pay raises. Why? Because it's unethical. Like, if you're firing people in order to get a bonus, that's pretty low.
To be
Ms.
clear,
Tate,
CBC Radio-Canada...
I think there might have been a misunderstanding. I'm not asking about 2022. I'm referring to the fiscal year of 2023, which ended in March of 2024.
So that's actually the fiscal year of 23-24, and for that year, we have not issued any performance pay because we have not yet reviewed the final results of the year that ended on March 31st, 24.
So, Ms. Tate, you are head of the management team. You confirmed at our last committee meeting that it is you and your management team that make that decision with regards to bonuses that are given out. You confirmed that that decision is made at the by no later than the end of March of 2024. And you then made the comment that the board would have to sign off on that recommendation in June. So I understand that the sign off is coming up, but you do know what the recommendation is. So as of the end of March of 2024, what is the recommendation for your 2023 bonus?
And Thomas is right. So how it works in a lot of organizations and how it works at the CBC is that they don't know whether their targets are met until the end of March 31st. Okay, fine, because there are year-long targets that you have to meet in order to make some sort of performance bonuses. Now, what they will no doubt say is that the targets account for a portion of their bonus. And there's going to be targets that are going to say that, well, we didn't meet these targets, so this portion of the bonus they don't get, but other targets were met, so they will get other portions of the bonus. Now, the issue is that this is all going to be completely independent of firing all of these people. And what Ms. Thomas is also correct on is that Tate and the management team know darn well whether they hit their targets or not. And all of those executives would have had to submit all of their performance metrics to the president by now, so that she can actually evaluate who met their targets and who didn't. And then that goes into Ms. Tate's recommendation to the board. That's what Ms. Thomas is talking about. So you already know if you're going to recommend getting bonuses or not. So don't play with me.
As I've said previously, these conversations are subject to internal deliberations by the management team to the board of directors. We have not had that conversation with the board. That is scheduled for June 12th and 13th. We will have that conversation, at which point the final results will have been audited and reviewed by the Auditor General. We don't simply precipitously announce results when we haven't had the privilege of the auditor and our internal audit process. So those final results are being assembled right now, and they will be made available after.
Ms. Tate, have you been assigned a bonus for 2023? I realize the board hasn't signed off on it, but have you been assigned a bonus
for 2023? No, I have not.
You have not been assigned a bonus for 2023?
I have not.
Okay, so this is where Thomas is asking the question in an incorrect way. Because she's asking in a way that the CEO, Catherine Tate, can easily get out of this. Because she's asking, have you been assigned a bonus? And Catherine Tate is interpreting this as, have I been authorized to have a bonus? Technically, no, I have not been authorized to have a bonus yet. So that's why there's this back and forth here. So what Thomas should be asking her, it was the original language, is, are you recommending that you yourself get a bonus? That's what she should be asking. And Tate knows damn well whether that's a yes or a no. And I'm pretty sure we all know it's a yes, and she just doesn't want to talk about it right now.
Well, if it was a no, she would be saying that it was a no. No, we're not taking bonuses this year.
Well, and here's the other thing, right? I think there's a reason why that board meeting is so late in June. Parliament will rise by then.
Oh, for sure. They won't be able to call Tate to committee until September.
Right. So that's a long time for everyone to hopefully forget about everything that the CBC is doing.
For 2023, there is no bonus coming your way.
I do not know that I have a bonus because the process, as we have described, for governor and council positions is separate from performance pay. My process is that I will be evaluated by the board of directors. A letter of recommendation will go to the government, and the government will reflect upon whether or not I or other appointees would receive any performance pay.
Has the board package for that June meeting gone out?
No.
No. Okay, because you are a member of that board.
I am.
So you not only have a say with regard to bonuses for the top executives, yourself included, you have a say not only in March when you're a member of the management team, the most senior member of the management team, but then you get a second say at the board level. So with all due respect, you do have a fair bit of power in terms of bonuses. So I'll ask again, will you be up for a bonus in the consideration at the board meeting in June?
As I've said previously, this is part of an internal deliberation. It's an HR function, and we have to be respectful of the governance that rules the CBC Radio-Canada.
But you do know the answer.
I absolutely do not know the answer until I've had those deliberations with the board of directors. I cannot preemptively say what the results of a future conversation will be.
Sure,
39
but you know
seconds.
what the recommendation is. You know what the recommendation is going forward to the board.
I think I've repeated myself enough to say these are matters that concern the organization that operates at arm's length like all Crown corporations, and I have to be respectful.
Confirm that you are the senior member of the management team, which makes the decisions, and then those decisions get recommended to the board, which you are a member of the board. Therefore, you have access to information.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this question has been asked, I think, 6 times now.
I was about to mention that I think the question has been clearly asked and the answers have been clearly given. And so I think Ms. Thomas has got, she's got literally about 2 seconds left. Finish.
So, Chair, I just point of I guess, response to the point of order, since you're ruling it in favor. I just want to be sure then, no repeat questions are permitted at this table is the ruling of the chair?
I really like the way Thomas is responding to this. She's responding to this with no sass, with clear tone, and just saying, all right, so just so we know, for everyone here, there's no repeat questions. That's what we're saying.
Well, and it's the members' time. Traditionally, the members can ask whatever questions they want. They can have whatever lead up they want. Each committee runs a little bit different, but most chairs will give the members kind of like their own room to conduct themselves within their time frame however they wish.
Now, for anybody interested, any guesses on how much Catherine Tate makes? Fox, what do you think she would make?
I'm going to say north of 250.
So, how much do MPs make?
Oh gosh, I don't know what it is now, but it's slightly over $200,000 a year, and then you get more if you're in cabinet, and you get more if you're the speaker or the leader of the opposition, or I think even like just a regular party leader like Jagmeet would get a little more, even though he's not opposition leader.
So, what if I told you that the bottom end, so the minimum that Catherine Tate would make, is more than double what an MP makes?
No, that's a lie. The Prime Minister makes like 400 and something thousand a year.
Tate's annual compensation is between $472,900 and $623,900, according to the CBC's 2023 Senior Management Compensation Summary.
Oh my goodness, shut your mouth.
This includes salary, bonus, and other benefits.
That's gross.
Taxpayer money, folks. Taxpayer money to pay a CEO that is doing a terrible job at the CBC. Remember, under this lady's leadership, the CBC has lost something like 50% of its viewers. That's crazy.
If I thought I had a stomachache before, I definitely do now.
I don't think that was what the member suggested. I think he suggested that the question had been repeated over and over.
Okay.
The witness
So what
had
is an
answered
appropriate
over
number
and
to
over,
repeat
and
the
it was
question?
getting to be repetitious because the question was the same and the answers were exactly the same.
Thank you. Point of order,
Thank
Chair.
you.
I'm just looking for a ruling. What would be the number of times that would be appropriate to repeat a question?
There is no set number of times,
Okay.
but as a chair,
Thank you,
I
Chair.
may decide
Thank you,
on
Chair.
how the meeting
Thank
moves
you, Chair.
forward.
There is
and
no
allow me to
appropriate
finish
number.
speaking, Ms. Thomas. Thank you.
Ms. Tate, at our previous committee meeting on January 30th, you confirmed that you are at the decision-making table with regard to bonuses. In fact, I'll quote you directly. You said, they make that decision based on the data that we present to them. In other words, the board makes a decision with regards to bonuses. They sign off on them based on the information that we, your management team, which you are the executive leader of, yes, make to them. So ultimately then, you have a voice at the management table and you have a voice at the board table. You have two places where you get to speak to whether or not the top 8 executives of the CBC get a bonus and how much. You are one of those top 8. Ms. Tate, what is the recommendation that went forward with regard to the bonuses for the top 8 executives for the 2023 fiscal year?
I really am sorry to seem difficult here, but the 22-23 year has already passed.
I
this
didn't
year,
ask about that.
So for 23-24,
I'm asking for the 2023
24 year.
Sure, you can include those 3 extra months in 24.
That's our fiscal year. It ends at the end of March 24. So for the 23-24, no recommendation has been prepared as yet. We are still reviewing our final results. We are a large corporation, $1.8 billion. A lot of data has to be reviewed, financials have to be audited, and KPIs have to be assessed and evaluated. All of that package goes to the board in mid-June, at which point we will discuss it. And by the way, I am not part of that 8. I am separate as a governor and council appointee. I do not participate in the performance pay that the other executives participate in.
We have a large number of employees. We are a large corporation. How many employees do you think this large corporation has, Fox?
A lot less now that they laid off, 600 people?
800, yeah.
800 people.
They have 6,600 employees.
I mean, I think that's considered a large business.
I guess.
But it's not, Google.
Like, when large companies in Canada, Canadian companies, you're talking like, Shaw. Shaw has, somewhere in the neighborhood of, 20,000 employees? Something like that.
Walmart, I know their U.S. operations has something like 2 million people.
So, like, for her to say, well, there's a lot of data to go. Give me a break. If you can't get your stuff together, like year end for corporations, that usually lasts, 3 weeks, maybe 4, unless they're completely incompetent. And then you have your financials, and they're saying, okay, well, our financials, need to be audited. Like, so what? You're going to be waiting until next year in order to get your bonus? Like, who's doing this audit? She says the Auditor General. Like, it's just, how are you making your decision, right? Because here's the thing, right? How do you know what targets to set for the next fiscal year, which is 12 months, when you don't even have your current data? That doesn't make any sense.
I think she's just avoiding the question.
Oh, I think so too. Again, wait till June 19th. When the Parliament is going to rise. That way we don't have to answer this question.
Okay, I can appreciate that. Either you lied on January 30th or you're lying now. And the reason being is because I'll quote back the words that you used at that time. You said, quote, at the end of the fiscal year, which will be the end of March 2024, the board of directors will decide. So in other words, at the end of March 2024, which has now passed, it's May 7th, there would be a decision that is made. Now you just told me no decision has yet been made.
I really take objection to being called a liar, which has happened several times. It is, I really, Madam Chair, this is not the first time that I have been called a liar by certain members of this committee, and it actually is the first time in a 40-year career that anybody has ever addressed me in this way. So I want to make a personal objection. Having said that, I made it clear that at the board meeting following the end of the fiscal year, we would be reviewing the results for the fiscal year. That meeting is always held in June. It gives us the time to review all the results, to get them audited, and to prepare the package in English and in French for the board of directors. This is a very large corporation. We do not do this overnight.
So, Ms. Tate, there are two discrepancies here. One, I'm looking at your website and it says senior executive team, and your picture is showing there. So you are one of the members of the senior executive team. So point of clarification there. And two, I am reading your direct quote where you say that bonus decisions will be made in March of 2024. And now you're saying to this committee, no, those decisions haven't been made.
Right, because here's the thing. The management team at CBC would review the results and then decide the recommendation to bring to the board. So what Thomas is saying is correct, is that CBC would already know at this point, they would already know what recommendation they're going to be making to the board. Tate is trying to say, well, no, nothing's decided. Nothing's decided. We go to the board and we talk about it. If they, this large corporation, if they went to their board and had nothing decided, the board's going to be like, you guys are all useless. Why aren't you coming to us with a recommendation? What kind of management team is this? What they will bring is they will bring, here's our results. Here's what they were. Here's our recommendation. Do you approve or not? And the board will say yes or no.
Well, it's kind of like this. It's like if Cypher and I are talking about what to have for dinner, and I've already got something in my head, he's already got something in his head. Those are the recommendations, right? And then we come together and we make a final decision on what we're going to have for dinner. So the executive team has that in their heads already on what the recommendation is going to be. And then they go to the board and present that recommendation. And now it's up to the board to discuss and determine whether they're going to follow that recommendation or whether they're not going to follow it.
So bottom line is, it's almost the middle of May. Catherine Tate knows darn well what they're leaning to in terms of recommendation. And again, if you weren't going to actually take a bonus because you fired so many people, you'd be like, no, we've decided as an executive team we're not going to do that because that wouldn't be right.
Up in May, they will be made.
So then why did you tell us on June 30th that they would be made in March then?
Because it's
You're
the end
either
of the
misleading
fiscal.
us now,
I
or
am
you
not
misled us
misleading
then.
you. I am not misleading you. I said at the end of the fiscal year, and
I
when the
just read it
board
to you.
meets after the end of the fiscal year.
So, Ms. Tate,
We're talking semantics here.
have you made recommendations with your management team as to whether or not the 8 top executives get bonuses for the 2023-2024 fiscal year?
We have not.
No recommendations have been made.
No, we have not.
When will those recommendations be made?
At the June board meeting.
So by the board, management team will have nothing to do with the recommendation?
We will present the results. We will present the results
Okay.
of the financial year and the results of the KPIs, and we will have an opportunity to discuss them, and the HRGC, which is the Human Resources and Governance Committee, will review them,
Thank you.
and they will make their recommendation to the board.
And your management team has had that
13
discussion,
seconds.
yes?
No, not as yet.
Wow, okay. So your information then provided on January 30th was not correct, because you told us that that decision would be made by your management team by the end of March of 2024. And now you're telling us on May 7th that you have not yet
I'm
had that
afraid the
conversation,
time is up.
which points to great incompetence.
Whoa. That was quite the shot at the end by Thomas. And she's right. Again, this is Tate trying to be slippery.
Well, and I mean, for over 400 G's a year, she better not be incompetent, which makes me believe that she's probably lying.
Yep.
And if she doesn't like being called a liar, then maybe she shouldn't lie.